Hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about the Bluetooth backdoor and other things. It is Tuesday, March 11, 2025. And I guess I'll start with that Bluetooth backdoor. I thought it was the biggest story of the last few days. There's something called an ESP32 chip, which is made by a Chinese manufacturer called Expressive and used by over 1 billion units, apparently most of them as the chip powering the Bluetooth communications. And it turns out researchers found a way to investigate the innards of that chip better than before by making a custom USB driver. And they found a whole bunch of undocumented commands, which they say allow you to spoof trusted devices, have unauthorized data access, pivot to other devices, possibly establish long-term persistence. And so they may be able to even have remote code execution. I don't think they've proven that yet. And that's on 1 billion devices. So the manufacturer responded and said those are debug commands used for internal testing, and they'll remove them in future software updates. So there's a huge install base of these things, probably no way to update most of it, and it sounds like there's a huge vulnerability in it. So it'll join all the other Internet of Things problems. There's no public exploit yet, but I'm sure that's coming. I mean, they haven't released the details yet, but it won't be long, I think. So it's going to be a big story like that botnet Mirai took over all the webcams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. But there's another one that's kind of interesting. I used LastPass. I think I'm still using it, and it got hacked a couple of years ago. And people said they're going to eventually crack the master passwords of those wallets and find stuff in there. And they've been finding it. And they've been linked to at least $45 million in crypto theft because a bunch of people had their crypto wallet key in LastPass and they didn't change it after the hack. And now the latest one is one of the Ripple co-founders says he had $150 million stolen from the LastPass breach. So, like everything with cryptocurrency, it comes from people being far less careful than they should be with such vast amounts of money, um,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah.
and maybe I'll go to the other big one that matches it. The other big one I thought might be the most important is the details have come out about how the North Koreans stole $1.5 billion last month, and it's because the crypto exchange was extremely sloppy and not being as careful as they need to be when handling that amount of money. What they did was they used something called SAFE for digital storage, and that is a free service and it's not considered enterprise ready. And there are pay versions that would have been safer, but they kept on using the free service even when it's handling their $1.5 billion in Ethereum on their hardware wallet. Now, they used the Ledger hardware wallet, which is the right thing to do. And it's not because of anything wrong with the ledger. But what happened is, since it's not properly integrated with the ledger, when you get a request for a transfer, you can't see the amount of the transfer. It's not integrated. And so he verified the transfer, as he routinely does, without checking the amount. And it turned out to be a fake transfer of $1.5 billion. So that's kind of incredible. And they say, in retrospect, we should have moved away from SAFE a while ago. Better product. And so SAFE, that was Bybit, which thankfully doesn't service Americans, although a lot of Americans sneak money out of the country to put it on crypto exchanges. It's apparently the world's second largest crypto exchange, and they're surviving this. They can afford to eat $1.5 billion of loss and keep going. Um, but SAFE has hired Mandiant to do an investigation of what happened, and they found that one of their developers' laptops was infected with malware, and the attacker hijacked an AWS session token and then put malware in their product. So this kind of thing that happens. And if you're a bank handling vast amounts of money, you have to have better security controls. You have to have two people approve transactions. You have to have some way of distinguishing large transactions from small ones. And you have to be very careful with the large ones. And, just like everything in the world of crypto, it's you idiots. There's this whole industry called banking that has all these controls, and you guys think you're smart not to have them. Just like Elon Musk thinks it's smart not to have any security controls on his teenagers rampaging through the whole government. And there's a reason why there are security controls in there.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, yeah. We
so
we we know why there's security controls.
Yeah, if you have vast amount of money, people keep stealing that money. So you keep on developing more
Yeah,
and more controls. It's more and more cumbersome and slow and inefficient to do, but that's what you need to have. Otherwise, everybody will steal the money.
right, right.
Yeah. So anyway,
So,
you got.
so Sam, I got one for you.
Yeah.
Where did the whole idea of the Gulf of America come from?
Well, I assumed Donald Trump's fevered imagination, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, it turns out that it was Stephen Colbert made a comedy routine
Oh,
about
really?
3, 4 years ago. And he said, why, something along the lines, why is
Has
it
he,
called the Gulf of Mexico? It should be the Gulf of America.
has he taken credit for it? He should.
I don't know if he's taking credit for it, but what happened is that got to some lawmakers, and eventually
Yeah.
it worked its way up to Trump, and they
He
said,
should
"Oh,
get royalties and he should
he
join the
should."
Trump administration as like a public relations advisor. You know, he could have a
Yeah,
whole new career here.
yeah. So that's where it came from. It was a comedy routine.
Yeah, well, and of course, to be fair, it is a little strange. I think I wrote into that when I first heard about it. Why is that the Gulf of Mexico? Most Gulfs are named after, like there's the Persian Gulf and stuff. I know. I figure
Yeah,
it'd be named after whatever
yeah.
the most significant nation next to it is. And how could anything be more significant than the U.S.? But anyway,
Well, but wasn't most of,
yeah.
not all of it, but maybe,
No, I think that's the point. Originally, when it
yeah,
was named, it was all Mexico around it.
yeah, yeah.
Before
That's
we
what
stole
I'm.
that land
Yeah,
from Mexico, the way Trump
yeah,
wants to
yeah,
steal Canada and Greenland and everything.
yeah. We stole it fair and square from Mexico,
Yeah,
didn't we?
like, well, yeah, we had a war.
True.
Yep, and which is now, by the way, I saw an article that Greenland is having a vote saying maybe we do want to be independent. They say we probably don't want to join America, but now that you mention it, we're not very happy with being a colony of Denmark. So Trump might not have been 100% wrong about that. They're having,
No, but
yeah,
there is a clause that if Greenland wants to, I just caught this a while back, but if Greenland wants to separate from Denmark, they have to go through Britain first. Britain has next dibs.
yeah, well, maybe they want
Agreed.
to do that. Like, Scotland keeps saying they want out of the UK.
Yeah,
There's various
yeah,
these nations that are sort of colonies and they're a little bit anxious to become independent, maybe. When you raise the
yeah,
issue, they'll at least have a vote. Apparently, there aren't any opinion polls in Denmark or anything, so nobody really knows what they think about this. They need to have a vote or a poll or something.
yeah. Yeah. And what's the purpose of Greenland for us?
Trump says we need it for strategic reasons, but who knows what he's talking about?
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't heard anybody I consider reputable in the national security realm explain whether Greenland is actually important or not. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we did have a number of military bases there years
I think we
ago.
still do. They're in NATO.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's why the whole idea that we need him for security purposes is ridiculous. We're in NATO, although he's planning to pull out of NATO and the UN. So, I mean, if we're going to be aligned with Russia against Europe, then I guess Greenland and Denmark will be our enemies, which appears to be where Trump is going. And then I guess we want to conquer it as start of attacking Europe. Europe is now talking about how to defend themselves from us. England is
yeah.
planning for it. We appear to be joining the axis of evil and becoming the enemy of Europe.
All right. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see
Yeah,
where that's
hopefully.
going.
Well, I've noticed that the Trump administration's outrages have slowed down. I think they've done all they can do, and now it's all starting to get snarled up in the courts. And they're starting to have infighting finally. Like Marco Rubio said, maybe we'll go back in and help Ukraine again, which I'm sure is not where Trump or Musk are. But Rubio is trying to actually have some control over his department. And from the latest blowup in the White House, apparently uh, it's reaching the end of the time period in which Elon just gets to shove everybody around like chess pieces. They're beginning to push back.
Yeah. Well, it, I've not heard anything about Elon in the news and what they're
Oh,
doing.
last week there was a big meeting in the White House where he was sort of humiliated. He was yelling at Rubio and lying to him and accusing him of things that weren't true, like he does. Just like Trump, if you contradict him, he just makes up lies.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Right. Right.
apparently is the way to get rich and powerful.
It's successful, is it not?
I
Well,
guess it
unless
always
you're.
has been. We've always had these infant kings that just sort of are like toddlers throwing things around, and they've inherited their power.
Yeah, well, unless you're Elizabeth Holmes or who is the other guy with Nikola Trucks, Trevor Milton. Both of them built people out of billions.
Yeah, well, they were apparent. I know they didn't know how to do it. I mean, Catherine the
Yeah,
Great did it too. She just took over the throne of Russia with no right to it at all and just held it and was successful. So I think some people just have this magic ability to be the leader.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Anyway, um,
All right, what's next on your agenda?
well, there's a interesting story on the register of a guy named Davis Liu, and he's been found guilty and is facing a 10-year prison sentence because he knew he was going to get fired, so he sabotaged everything. He put malware on the systems that would wipe out other people's files and that would fill the server with unnecessary traffic to flood it. And he set all this to go off as soon as he was no longer in Active Directory. So it's sort of attack I've heard about theoretically. He added to Active Directory a term, a an OU or something, whatever. He added a I didn't get the right name. He added a kill switch in Active Directory. He enabled some. He named the code is DL enabled in AD, as in is Davis Liu enabled in Active Directory. So he added to it a term that would detect when he was no longer in there and then destroy the company. So
Yeah, so the way I think you would do that is with an
yeah.
LDAP directory lookup.
Yep. And then
And
and you have a policy that will then run a script or something when that happens.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
this is a
yeah,
classic time bomb kind of thing, uh,
yeah,
and
yeah,
logic bomb. And
yeah.
but he left all this trail leading right back to him. I mean, you don't name it after yourself, anyway. That's the part he didn't think through. They'll be sorry they fired me. Well, yes, but then there's another thing that's going to happen, which you should have seen coming.
So were they able to recover?
Oh, I assume, yeah. They don't
Yeah,
talk about that, but they said it cost, a whole bunch of damage and so much money. So that means they spent all that money trying to recover. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
I didn't kill the company, but they're locking him up. Yeah. All right. And let's see, I got a few more InfoSec stories.
Okay.
India has now said they want backdoors. They've made a proposed bill saying tax auditors need to have access to a long list of things, all your email servers, social media accounts, online investment accounts, cloud services, much more. They're just like the UK. They're casually saying, okay, well, I remember I saw an FBI agent say this. Well, you can have all the encryption you want as long as you can provide to us plain text when we ask for it. That's their position,
Okay.
which, as usual, is not understanding the point.
You're
So
right.
UK and India have not grasped that end-to-end encryption means we can't give you the plain text. And to be fair, there was a time like 15 years ago when everybody had access to everything. And you just accepted that. Like I remember I saw a guy say, I think I heard a French teacher said, it used to be you'd just pay $300, mail the phone to Apple, include a hard drive and say, copy the data off this phone on the hard drive, and they would just do it. No garbage, no nonsense. Why don't they go back to that? Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Well, there's a reason they don't go back to it. I know because that means
yeah.
other people can do it too. That's the problem. That's why we have real security is when the company doesn't have the password either.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Apparently,
I got one for you
yeah.
here. Ever been to Las Vegas? I'm sure you have.
I go to DEF CON. The only reason I would
Yeah.
ever go there.
Yeah. So I just heard this. This is kind of from late last year, but it's interesting. Uh, Las Vegas is trying to reinvent themselves, at least the hotels are, because I guess gambling is way down. Have you heard anything on gambling numbers?
I don't know, but I mean, what else are they going to do? They have shows and stuff, but it's mostly like sex and gambling, I think.
Yeah. So what they're doing is famous hotels are disappearing. The new ones that are popping up are trying to cash in on luxury wellness.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Vegas as a health spa?
That's
Boy,
the
I've usually thought of it as the most unhealthy place to go, but I guess you could do that.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know exactly if any of them have opened yet, but they're promoting wellness in Vegas because gambling is down.
Well, if I was thinking of a place to go to get healthy, it'd be the last place I'd go. It'd be like having an alcohol treatment facility there. Like, No, not here. This is the worst place on earth.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, obviously,
Exactly.
uh, you're gonna every time you step out of this place, you're gonna be doing things that are gonna want you to go back in. I guess you could see it as a business investment, like selling arms to both sides of a war.
Yeah.
You could
But
have a special
I
ticket.
mean, yeah, there was a time that I think it was in the late 80s or mid 80s that Las Vegas advertised themselves as their logo was we're family friendly.
I remember that. Then they put in Circus Circus and stuff. And I don't
Yeah.
know if that's true. They said there'd be some stuff for kids to do. I don't know, maybe.
No, they did. They opened up a really
Yeah.
big water park,
Yeah.
and that didn't do so well after time. And then they said, "Nah, let's not make it kid friendly anymore. What happens in Vegas still stays in Vegas."
Yeah, I feel
Was the
kind of
next?
like
Yeah,
I feel like Scott Galloway is the guy that should tell us. I mean, he's an expert in branding here. The thing is, their whole brand is this self-destructive booze, gambling, and sex,
yeah,
decadent adult entertainment. And can you really branch out to something else? It'd be like a studio that makes porn movies deciding to make something else. I mean,
like
can you
Disney
actually
movies.
escape can you actually escape, this brand you've made that locks you in a certain corner?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. I don't think so, but call me the pessimist.
Yeah, the only thing I think you could do is something outside entertainment. They could start manufacturing canned goods or something. I mean, you maybe do that, but I don't think you can move from scandalous, forbidden entertainment to any other kind of entertainment because your name is synonymous with that scandalous, bad stuff. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but I'm not an expert in branding. That's just my opinion.
I'm not either, but I thought that was kind of an interesting story that
Yeah.
that's the direction they're going right
Well, it
now.
does suggest that they're not having enough growth possibility in the gambling industry, which might be healthy for America. My opinion, cigarette smoking seems way down. And it would be nice if people became less self-destructive. That would be healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
RFK Jr. will lead us into national wellness, apparently.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
RFK
So,
Jr.
well, I know. I know. He's already blocking the flu vaccine and telling people that the measles can be cured by eating like more meat or something. So,
Yeah, there's a pretty good YouTube video, short one that's about RFK Jr. and the measles.
yeah.
And he was asked questions in the White House
Yeah.
and kind of defending his position
Yeah.
on measles. And he just said, this is just another outbreak that we've had. And in reality, I should put up a slide. Maybe I'll get this next time. The number of outbreaks, yes, they do happen, but it went from hundreds of thousands of cases back before the vaccine to very few.
Right. Right. This big
And
outbreak is like 200 people. And that's,
yeah,
it
yeah,
used to just be every kid got it. I remember that.
yeah, yeah. And Sam, as you pointed out, we're finding out recently that the measles, I guess, is a virus, right? It's a virus. I
I don't
need
know,
to
whatever it is,
think.
it does permanent damage to your immune system. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was going. They found it's causing damage to immune system. So there's
Yeah.
another reason
Yeah.
to uh
Yeah.
get vaccinated.
Yeah. And he has opened an official government investigation into whether vaccines cause autism, completely ignoring
Oh
the fact
no.
that that has been totally resolved. But he's going to create doubt on this issue again. So he's doing just what we were afraid he's going to do.
Yeah.
He's going to spread plagues through America by putting in garbage instead of science.
Yeah, doubt and confusion. There's a whole
Yep.
industry out there about that.
And the anti-vaxxing is big in America
Yeah.
and it's going to grow
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now the
Yeah.
government is not going to provide the vaccines anymore. Apparently, not even a flu shot. So you're not going to be able to get it if you want it.
Yeah, it's going to get interesting.
That's one word for it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Chromecasts have
Yes.
apparently quit working, and Google has not made a clear explanation, but they say it's because of an expired certificate. And people are all doing factory resets, and I say, no, don't do a factory reset. That will just make it worse. So uh, this happens, with digital certificates. Uh, Keeps on happening. That's the problem with security. Security is so annoying. It blocks functionality.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. Why would they have certificates? And
Well,
obviously for security, we know
I
that.
guess, and now that you mentioned, I don't know if the Chromecast, I guess it connects to the web. I guess those are all HTTPS connections. I guess for firmware updates, you need it. And probably to download the movies and keep the copy from being stolen and stuff. Yeah, you probably want it for
Yeah.
everything. Anyway, so
Yeah.
Apple, people seem to be guessing what Apple's doing from something. They don't seem completely sure, but they have this thing that Apple is bringing out called kernel saunters. It's on the register. So what they're going to do, apparently, is harden the kernel that powers its operating system, like iOS and Mac OS. And they already have something called a secure enclave, and now they're going to have a secure exclave. So in the kernel, they're going to set aside memory outside the kernel to put secrets in. So even if the kernel is compromised, you can't steal those secrets. So this sounds like another step in the area, like, Windows machines for like 10 years have had a TPM, a special hardware chip to put secrets in. And now, and I think various processors have emulated ones, like on Android phones. They don't have a
Right.
hardware one, they have an emulated one. And they're going to put more of these emulated enclaves or exclaves around, which have secrets and can only be accessed by certain like inter-process communication channels, like API calls. So it's going to fragment the kernel, but it's interesting. That's going to be the next step forward. Apple's a real leader in that kind of security. Like the iPhone boot up process is amazingly secure and complicated. So they work real hard to keep it secure.
Yeah. So are they trying to do like a TPM chip?
Yeah, but apparently
So
in software.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. A soft TPM chip.
that
So
kind of thing. Yeah,
it's not like Windows where they tried to divide the processor
right.
in memory into secure and non-secure.
Well, the iPhone already has an SE, which is effectively a TPM chip, a secure element, but the
Okay.
kernel is a single monolithic object.
Yeah.
They say this is basically going to turn refactoring the kernel into a central microkernel with protected enclaves. So the internal kernel processes are going to get more complicated. Now, this reminds me of an attack I was big on doing in 2012, where an IPv6 flood would cause my Windows to crash because it just used up all the memory in the kernel and the kernel stopped. And I found out at that time, which I did not know, kernel processes don't check how much memory is available before they launch. They say, oh, that would waste too much time. They have to be efficient. So they just launch them and hope they'll work. And I said, really? And can't you make the kernel a little more logical and well designed? And apparently Apple's working on it. It's anyway. Also, the Department of Justice was trying to do breakup of monopolies in the Biden term. And so
Right.
they had a lawsuit process going on against Google. And at that time, the Biden administration wanted to force Google to sell off its AI. But the Trump administration came in, and instead of just quashing it completely, which is what I expected, they said, you can keep the AI, but we really think you need to sell off Chrome, which would really hurt them. They're pushing Chrome, and they're also
Oh, right.
proposing that they be prohibited from building their products into Android the way they do, forcing everyone to use Chrome products in order to get what they need on Android, which is what they absolutely do. And so I'm surprised that the Trump administration is pushing forward with that. My interpretation is Google must have forgotten to pay Trump a large enough bribe. All they have to do is give him like $20 million, and this will probably go away, I think. But it
Yeah.
hasn't done that yet. It's
Yeah.
so
Interesting.
I know Google might get hurt by antitrust.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see where this is going.
Yeah. Yeah. You got another one?
Yeah, I've got one. Sam, have you heard of Pravda, which is the newspaper that was in Russia?
Yeah. Pravda and Izvestia.
Yeah,
I knew a
okay.
guy from Russia, and he told me Pravda is truth and Izvestia is news. And the joke in Russia is there is no Izvestia in Pravda, and there is no Pravda in Izvestia.
So apparently, I guess Pravda, the newspaper, is now gone. Or there's another organization that's also called Pravda,
Oh, okay.
and that's online data or online information. And they're in the news business per sort of, I'll put it to that way. And what they're doing is this was launched, so it's Pravda News Organization. It was launched in 2022, and it's also known, this is pretty good, as Portal Combat. So what they've
Agency.
done, pardon?
A news agency called Combat? Not a video game?
called you've heard of, yeah, you've heard of Mortal Kombat.
Right.
This is
Okay.
Portal Combat, and you'll
Yeah.
get the ironic, twist to this in a moment.
Yeah.
So in 2024, Pravda, this Portal Combat group, published over 10,000 news articles per day. That's 3.6 million per year. And they published them on low engagement websites, about 150 of them. So you'd think, who's going to pick that up? And the answer is the
Everybody.
search engines.
Yep.
And so the search engines, they've been highly successful in getting the search engines to pick this up and essentially creating another truth, or a Pravda truth, if you will.
Yeah. Kind of propaganda tool.
Yeah.
This
So
is,
that's what,
yeah.
yep. So that's why it's called Portal
This is
Combat.
SEO.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it also means you could take money and push narratives and create false facts if you wanted to, and there's a market for that.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I think the election campaign should pay for them. And this is essentially what the right wingers have. They have like these three or four news agencies that will just repeat a lie. And also the congressmen and senators will all repeat the same lie. Like they're all out there saying, Doge found all this fraud, waste, and inefficiency when they found essentially nothing. But they'll all just
Well,
repeat the same lie.
that's essentially where the Gulf of America came from. It was a comedy show.
Yeah. But somehow it got it in the echo chamber and repeated.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why, it's one reason why I get frustrated with the Republican voters, but I realize they're essentially victims and they believe nothing but propaganda. They have no idea what's going on.
Right,
And they never
right.
will. I mean, they live in sort of apparently same thing's true in Russia. 80% of the people support Putin. They believe all the lies about Ukraine. So the propaganda works if you deny people good information. And we
Right,
effectively
right.
got that happening here, even though there isn't like an obvious barrier preventing them from watching good information, but they just naturally gravitate towards the bad information. They manage to make the bad information tastier.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have another story?
Oh, yeah, I've got some politics one. So Elon Musk,
Okay.
Tesla is falling like a stone. It's down 55% from its all-time high, which came in December 17. So Elon Musk's two big things, his political moves are disgusting everybody. He's very unpopular. Everybody hates him. Even Republicans hate him. And also, he's failed to innovate Tesla. Instead of having a new model car, all they had was the S3, X, and Y. Those are the four models, which spell sexy for him. It's all a joke. And the
Right.
Y is getting old, and he hasn't made a new model. And he promises full self-driving, but he never gets it. And Waymo got there first. So even when he gets there, there's going to be no money to make off it. So Tesla is kind of like lost at sea. And everybody hates Elon. And Tesla never spent money on marketing. They just counted on Elon's likability to make them popular. And it worked for a while, but now it's not working. And Tesla needs to fall. Like Tesla is now, was it 479? It's fallen to 222. I heard Scott Galloway say today the logical price for it is 30. It should fall by about another factor of 10 from where it is to get down to where it actually would be justified for the stock to be based on the cars they sell. It's a meme stock. It's all just to be on Elon's team. And the charm of being on Elon's team has gone down. So that's encouraging for those of us that want to see Elon and Trump go down.
Yeah, so it is interesting. So in the past 6 months, the peak was at 440,
Yeah,
and that was when in December.
right after
So
the election, when
right
his being
after the
close to Trump
election.
made people think he's really doing great.
Yeah, yeah. But if you look over the 5-year range, there was a drop in 2003, pardon me, 2023 to 123.
Yeah,
So this is double. You can play with the numbers there. And if you look in 2024, it was 171
yeah,
or 164. It was, half of what it is now, right?
yeah. Like any meme stock, it's pretty volatile. So
Yeah, yeah.
this is why I think the big question for the nation and the world is: does Trump keep going on this self-destructive path and completely burn down his administration and the Republican Party, or does he stop and go back to something more resembling a responsible government? I don't know how he can. I mean, betraying Ukraine and cozying up with Putin and picking a fight with Canada. I don't know. I think his international moves are pretty much non-reversible. And
Yeah.
I think even his economic moves that are disastrous would have to involve him admitting he was wrong. And I don't think he can do that. So we'll see. I think I haven't heard people make this comparison in America. They mostly compare him to Hitler, but I'm thinking it's better to compare him to Chairman Mao. I think this is America's cultural revolution, where this sort of religious leader comes in with his red book of stupid ideas and forces them on everyone, no matter what the harm is, because he caused a giant famine through China by fouling up their ability to raise crops with his stupid ideas that were wrong. And Trump is destroying our economy by just ramming through this stupid idea that we can live on tariffs instead of income tax. And if he is too stubborn to move on that, he'll just destroy the economy of the nation by refusing to admit what he's doing. So it's
Yeah.
you're in the same place as any place ruled by a dictator. It all depends on the whim of this one crazy guy, and apparently none of us can do anything about it.
Yeah. Well, in comparison, other stocks aren't doing well, like Nvidia.
Well,
And
yeah, they fell for another reason. They fell
yeah,
because of DeepSeek.
yeah. But
Yeah,
in
they were way
stock
too
market,
high.
yeah.
And by the way, the investment people have said, major investment people have said, the stock market is in fact well overvalued, and it needs to have a recession to uh, to get to where it should be.
Okay.
So they
All
said
right.
it was like overinflated. It was just waiting for a poke to make it collapse, and Trump gave it the poke.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
so in the same spirit, Trump has actually been following through on his promise to arrest people who protest Israel. And in fact, a prominent pro-Palestine protester with green card, he revoked his citizenship and is deporting him, which I think he does not have the power to do, but he's doing it. And then a judge has already ordered him not to do it. So we'll
So
see.
was this the Palestinian activist at
Yeah,
Columbia?
yeah, yeah. This one, former graduate student at Columbia, was an activist, and Trump has said, if you're going to engage in protest, I'm just going to throw you out of the country, and he's doing that. But we'll see if he can get away with it. And apparently, now he has said he wants to do more of that. And in response, there's an international watchdog group that has added the United States to its watch list for the most rapid decline in civic freedoms. We are now on the list with the Republic of Congo, Italy, Pakistan, and Serbia. And the main things they talk about are the mass termination of federal employees, the appointment of Trump loyalists in key government positions, the withdrawal from international efforts like the World Health Organization and the UN Human Rights Council, the freezing of foreign aid, and dismantling of U.S. aid. They say all these things are drastic decreases in civic freedoms here. And certainly Trump wants to do much more. In fact, there is one of Trump's executive orders ordered the Secretaries of Defense and Department of Homeland Security to submit a joint report within 90 days recommending whether to invoke the Insurrection Act. This is what he threatened to do last time, to invoke the Insurrection Act and declare martial law, so he just has even more power to just crush everybody he doesn't like. And
I see.
and he might do that. The fact is, he apparently does have the legal right to invoke the Insurrection Act, and he can do that by merely asserting that unlawful obstruction has made it impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States. And Dwight D. Eisenhower did this when he ordered the Arkansas National Guard to enforce the desegregation of Little Rock, Arkansas schools. So he does have the power to invoke martial law, and he wanted to last time. Is I remember Kellyanne Conway wanted him to do it. A bunch, maybe Sarah Palin, those kind of people really wanted him to do it. Oh, it was Marjorie Taylor Greene really wanted him to do it because she couldn't spell Marshall right. I remember that. But the Trump the MAGA team might well do that, and he could do that at any moment, I think. But he has a report coming out saying whether he should do that. So more fun stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, more stuff, huh?
Anyway, that's all I've got.
Interesting.
You got any more?
Nope, that's it for me. We'll see
Okay.
you on Pi Day,
I guess you're right. On Friday,
fr-
yep, which was Pi Day.
Friday, the 14th.
Okay. See you then.
All right, we'll see you then.